So we started these CORT Workplace Talks a while back to have guests on who could educate CORT customers, bring ideas, motivate, and all that kind of thing. And so I'm Melanie Jones, the host and work at CORT. And today my guest is Sam Rosen, who is the co-founder and CEO of Deskpass.
Hey, Melanie.
But hi, welcome, and thank you for investing a couple minutes. More important than your official title is your unofficial about you from LinkedIn, which I absolutely love. Okay, so since the age of 5, you could find me behind my Mac working on my latest scheme to take over the world, Chicago, or at least a large portion of the local playground. I think that it describes you so well because you're part creative, part genius, part technology guy, an expert in workplace. And so this should be a real good conversation for many of our customers.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean it from my heart. Sam, we tried to record this a little earlier when we had some really big news, but it's still big news. And for those that don't know, I'm talking about the merger of Deskpass with Breather. And I thought that might be a good place to dive in. It's just a quick overview for our listeners of what that means and looks like for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, thank you for having me, Melanie. I appreciate it. I always love our chats. So hopefully this will be fun. Yeah, so Deskpass is a marketplace and it connects individuals and companies with this ever-expanding network of flexible workspaces. So desks for the day, meeting rooms for an hour a day, private offices, just really flexible access to workspace. And we've been doing this for like 6-7 years. And last year, we announced at the beginning of this year, we joined forces with Breather, which is a marketplace similar to Deskpass that sells meeting rooms. And in its life, it's raised over $150 million, and it ended up being acquired by Industrious, which is one of the biggest co-working brands in the world. And we joined forces with Breather, and we were able to partner with Industrious. And what that means is, over the last, 5-10 years, Breather has had some of the biggest, most innovative, progressive companies utilize their workspaces and meeting rooms on demand. And now, through working with Deskpass, we're able to offer Breather customers thousands and thousands of more options, different types of options in a lot more cities all over the world. So it's really exciting.
It really is. And even since the time when the merger happened, are you seeing like new things coming as you join forces?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot. I mean, merging with a new company and sort of taking over the operations of it is an interesting endeavor. So you kind of do as much homework and research at the get-go to understand what you're getting yourself into. But then when you actually get in there, you learn a lot. So we've learned a lot about how this platform worked and differed from Deskpass and customer behavior. And they've spent so much money on marketing and customer acquisition. So just being able to kind of pour through the research, like the data over the last like 8 or so years of their platform has been really interesting to learn about kind of what worked and what opportunities lay in front of us.
Yeah, it sounds like it kind of expanded the scale of data available to Deskpass, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And their product over the life of Breather was quite interesting and differed a bit from Deskpass. So we learned a lot about like meeting rooms and what companies are really looking for and what sells and how to create, like if you can control a meeting environment, like how you create one that is really great.
Yes. So let's just say that a CORT customer is interested in tapping into Deskpass. how does that work? Like, how would you explain it to some of our customers and if they're looking to be flexible with part of their space?
Yeah, I mean, I think court customers are probably pretty smart
They
and
are.
and progressive in sort of how they think about the workspace in the future. So I think Deskpass is really kind of an extension of that thought, which is, offering flexibility. So we work with customers small to some of the biggest companies in the world. Every company is different. Every company is thinking about the future of work differently, office differently, their remote work policy differently. There's really no two solutions that are the same, right? And I think what we offer, which is similar to a court, is a lot of flexibility, right? To scale up, to scale down, to be more adaptive to your needs and requirements as they change. So, what we can offer is an augmented uh, workplace solution outside of your own office, outside of your employees' homes. So, what this means for most companies is they still have an office that they're furnishing and they're is built for employees, but outside of their core markets, outside of their kind of key requirements, instead of having no offering, they can point folks to a corporate branded desk pass, which allows them to set rules, entitlements, budgets, and really learn behavior. Because I think remote work and hybrid work is a pretty new concept for a lot of companies. And Deskpass is like a pay-as-you-go, utilization-based solution that allows them to offer this to their employees and really understand their behavior and what they need and how they should build their real estate portfolio in the future.
Yeah, it's such a big thing. I'm not sure all companies know the availability of a solution like this. And I was looking back at my notes. I actually want to read something. This was from a CORT Workplace Talks that we did almost 4 years ago. And you said something that at the time I thought was brilliant. Well, I still do, but it was just shows that you're visionary and desire to take over the world, I guess. But anyway, it says, one of the most significant pieces of advice I give folks launching new co-working spaces, and I want to interject here, I think this quote applies to more than just co-working. But anyway, so launching new co-working spaces is to make sure that they build flexibility to adapt, change, and optimize their physical space. And you go on to say, as you begin to build, you make a ton of assumptions about who will work in your room, how the teams will prefer to use it, and it's critical that you continually use that data to inform your design. It's a challenging proposition as the traditional office furniture paradigm is expensive. I think we were talking about CORT at the time, and it's semi-permanent. So as you get to know your customers, their demands, those with the agility to make changes, adapt, ultimately succeed. So I was just thinking about that in terms of something I've been talking about lately, which is this, as it has to do with furniture, but it's also space, is this natural coming together of owning, say, furniture or owning your physical space, but supplementing it with a subscription and on-demand flexible solution. I've just seen that more and more in the workplace. And I think that we kind of have that in common, this idea of saying you're likely, if you're a company, to have some real estate where a lot of your people are most of the time, but you're going to supplement it with space that's on demand. And it's exactly the same thing with court. Don't you kind of
Totally.
see a revving up of that?
100%. I mean, if you read the news and LinkedIn and you sort of pay attention to this stuff, there's such like sensationalism and there's such like news. But like when we talk to customers, which we do every day, I know you guys do too, you learn that they're still beginning to figure out what the future means. They're still trying to understand what their employees want. I argue their employees are still trying to figure out what they want. And no two employees are the same, and their jobs change and their lives change with them. So we've like strongly believe in this notion of office as an ecosystem, right? The traditional office, it's not going anywhere. The
Yeah.
trends that we're seeing is people are taking less space and they're being more thoughtful about the space they take and how they execute it. So like, why do we have this office downtown? What does it serve? Is it to serve our customers? Is it to serve our employees? Is it to train? Is it to learn? Is it to collaborate? And they're taking less space, but they're being far more thoughtful about kind of being efficient and smart with that space. And in tandem, they're offering a lot more flexibility. They're allowing their employees to work from home, sometimes all as much as they want, sometimes a few days a week. Um, and then there's this whole middle ground of spaces that are on the Deskpass platform and these co-working spaces that have been around now for a while that augment it, right? So it's an opportunity maybe to find a specialized space that works for me with my requirements and what I need. But it's shifting and it's evolving. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing obviously more people working from home, less people going into the office, and a lot more use of this sort of middle ground types of solutions environments. And it's much more fluid and flexible than I think what traditional real estate, traditional office management, and just, looked like for a really long time.
Yes, I agree 100% on that too. And I did have kind of a good example I think you'll like, because we were together not too long ago at the Juicy conference. Thank you, Liz Elam, for putting that on. But
Hi,
it's
Liz.
Hi, Liz. Uh, that Convene is a great example. That's a very good customer of Court, and how they've kind of evolved in their workplace offering is that they provide the space and they provide most of the furniture for their members, let's say, but they work with Court to supplement that with a curated experience of here is furniture from Court that integrates with our brand that you can have for 6 months, and when you're done, you return it. Because, like you're saying, even the providers of space are trying to curate and customize it to give that better experience, to the members and the customers. So I'm loving seeing that too, because it's just another way of on demand.
100%. We're all learning. I mean,
Yeah.
companies, employees, flexible workspace providers, platforms like Deskpass, it's changing quickly and we're learning and adapting quickly.
Yes. And I mean, that's why I'm so glad that you're here talking for a few minutes, because you're actually, like you said, you're actually in the trenches. You can see something on LinkedIn or even the Wall Street Journal, but it's really not what we're hearing with our customers all the
Yeah,
time. So we need
totally.
to speak up for the positive sides. Um, so another question is, there's a number of flexible space providers and co-working providers and so forth entering the market or working to grow their brand. And I know that you have ideas and experience about scaling a business. And so what tips would you give those companies that are looking to scale and expand and things based on what you've done at Deskpass?
Yeah, I mean, as the office market changes and there's going to be a lot more available, underutilized office, there's going to be more and more of a demand for flexibility. And you're seeing this with like large blue chip companies that are saying, we want to go in your building, we're going to take less space than we have historically, but we need some flexibility. We need a co-working or flexible workspace provider in the building. So I think we're starting to see just it being far more common for every building to have some type of flexible program or offering because that's what their customers are looking for, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of expansion and opportunity still in suburbs outside of downtown, primary markets, like in secondary, tertiary markets, in small neighborhoods and small communities. There's a growing demand because companies are offering this more and more. So we see a lot of growth in the suburbs. We see a lot of growth in markets that have very few offerings, and I think there's a lot of expansion opportunity there. But I think a lot of my advice still remains the same, especially for net new operators, which is you make a ton of assumptions about this business up front, and every market is different. Customers are different. Spaces are different. So give yourself the flexibility to evolve and change and not be so rigid in a technology layout, furniture solutions that gives you sort of the adaptability to listen and evolve and change. And I think like we have a lot more change. The thing that there's something I heard that I really resonates with me, which is we've been refining and evolving the office experience for 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got pretty good at office, and we've made a lot of strides over time. Remote work is still nascent. Like there's so much opportunity for innovation and there's so much opportunity for change and getting better at remote work from technology, culture, processes, furniture. There's so much upside and opportunity. So I expect that things are going to change, continue to change quite quickly. And giving yourself the flexibility and adaptability to see what's working and change with it, I think that's where you're going to really see winners versus folks that just kind of like a factory try to press out the same offering, the same solution over and over again.
Yeah, it goes back to the idea that a lot of people have been talking about for a few years, which is the alignment to hospitality. You know, if you have a restaurant and you're getting feedback from your customers, you're probably going to change the menu a little bit or whatever. And I think that's important too, especially as we see unique co-working opportunities to support a certain kind of membership or community.
Totally.
So that's a good point. And back to your comment about having co-working in every building. I mean, think 5, 6 years this conversation has been going on. Like this stuff takes time because it's real estate and it's slow and it's cumbersome. But you know, we probably look back in 10 years and say, okay, it did happen. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's taken a long time to change at the velocity it's changing. Like it really is starting to change at a fast rate.
yes, yes. Is there anything specific that you just love to talk about that you think listeners might be curious about?
I just think it's really, I think most companies are kind of scared of this still. And I think when I say that this, I mean remote work,
Mhm.
offering flexible options. And I think it's a really understandable. I think a lot of the conversations have shifted from the real estate organization and the real estate team to the people organization and the HR team. And both have different priorities and both have different ways of thinking about things and analyzing things. What we found is most companies, if they're thinking about this properly and care about their culture and employees, they're asking them and they're saying,
Yeah,
what do you want? What are you looking for? And they're using that as a data point to inform their strategy. But I think so many companies think of this as like an all or nothing proposition that they have to like be big and bold. And the things that we see a lot is this like testing and trying and offering solutions to learn because I think what people think they want, what companies think they need is different from people's actual behavior and what they actually do need. So tools like Deskpass are a really great way to put your toes in the water, dip your toes in the water, to offer a kind of new paradigm of solutions, but in a way that's like low risk
yeah,
and you can turn off or you can expand, but you can learn. I mean, we've seen a lot of companies that come to us, they just want to see if they offer something like this, if it works, like if people will use it. That's the experiment, right?
yeah,
And that's a great experiment. And then they learn, oh crap, people do use it and actually using it more than we expected. And then they work to sort of refine what that means and how they instrument it. So I just like, I don't, I think a lot of companies are now in their second or third return to work like rallying cry. And I think this is just, there's so many little opportunities all over the place to try and to learn and use that to be your guiding force in changing your space, your culture, your team. And that's been something that I think's been really, really interesting from our perspective.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's interesting how our business models have so much in common. They're very different businesses, but it's that same thing of on-demand flexibility, low risk, changeability. Question for you. I mean, if you think about circularity, which we talk a lot about of CORT because it makes a lot of sense, really, the customers that work with Deskpass, that they're providing that too, right? Like it's not one office that throws furniture away in 10 years. It's an evolving thing. Like your company A is in there and then company B and so yeah, I think we need to see that conversation continue to grow, especially in the US where it's not so much a throwaway society.
Yeah, it's so important. The thing that got me into co-working in the first place was like come from a background of design and technology, and it was just realizing offices are empty, and they've been empty for a long time. And by empty, I mean underutilized. Like they're just not very efficient, and I would argue they haven't been efficient for a really long time. A good flexible operator is incredibly efficient, right? It's serving sometimes many customers using the same desk throughout a week. And I think in our culture and in the world we live in, this is so important. And by minimizing the underutilization that most companies offer that have in their portfolio, and by leveraging all these incredible workspace providers that often create, really wonderful, unique work experiences. We're, uh, we're crossing a bunch of things off our list: talent recruitment, talent retention, saving money, and helping the environment. I mean, aside from just the emptiness of office, you talk about commutes. How much time and energy and money is wasted every day for people commuting to do a job that they are is indistinguishable at the office than it is somewhere closer to their house. So it's, I think, a wonderful step. And I think Court and Deskpass are really well aligned there and just being more thoughtful about what we use and how we use it and what we throw away.
Yeah, I know we think alike on that. Another thing that comes to mind is another mutual friend, Sarah Travers, CEO of Workbar, and how she said the other benefit is all the value that companies like that bring to the landlord to try to help the real estate, in buildings where there is just more vacancy than they should be. This influx of energy and community by putting a site in a building. I've always liked that too.
Totally.
Um, well, before we close out, our last CORT Workplace Talk, which we'll put a link into it, you had some good advice for entrepreneurs, whether it's in this co-working or technology or whatever. But in 4 years, do you think you have any renewed advice for generations coming up through the ranks and have an entrepreneurial spirit?
I can't remember how I answered this 4 years ago, so if it's the same, then it's true, and if it's not, then hopefully it's helpful. But I think
Then you've evolved. If it's
that I've evolved. I, I think entrepreneurship can be such like a daunting pursuit, and I think the older you get, and the more kids and mortgages and obligations you have, it feels more and more daunting. But I think there's still so much opportunity for new thinking and new opportunities. And most of the entrepreneurs that I know that have been scared to take the leap and ultimately do, um, are very pleased to do it, even if they fail. And I think folks that fail come back to the table if they go back to like a more traditional job with a lot to offer. There's a lot of empathy and understanding and intelligence that comes from trying to build something new, even if you don't do it, it doesn't work out. And I think it makes you better at your job, and it makes you better at sort of how you think about the world and how the world works. So I think like people often come to me when they're on the precipice of quitting their job and starting something new, and they're like on the edge of a cliff, and I feel like they're jumping and they just need someone to help kind of push them off the cliff. And I just think like if it's something, if it's a itch that you want to scratch, you've been thinking about it a long time, take the leap. I think it's less risky than you think, and you actually come back the other side more valuable, with a better appreciation and understanding for a more traditional, job. But I'd say do it.
Do it. And if it doesn't work out, there's probably a high likelihood at another point in life people will try it again, with a new skill set and learnings and everything. I think more than anything in this world, especially with AI and all that, that we need to keep thinking and innovating ourselves. Um, so,
Totally.
well, just a privilege to have you, Sam, and we look forward to sharing this with our customers and beyond. And just keep up the good work. I guess I better note in 4 years to reach back out for part 3.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in 2028. No, Molly, I really appreciate you and all the work you do, on behalf of Court and just in the industry. So I love our conversations, and I appreciate the platform.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Sammy.
Bye.
Bye.